I've looked at a lot of these different emerging technologies, and what I try to do is some kind of meta-analysis on top of what everybody else knows to try to see how these things fit together, how to prioritize them. And the priorities differ depending on where you are and what your use case is. And so blockchain is a very foundational kind of data and networking technology. People talk about blockchains, but really where the power is in the network effect. So what it could do, really, beyond having transaction visibility across the chain, is open things up so that we can have autonomous systems at scale. So I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about some use cases. I'll give you a blue sky vision of where we could be in, say, 20 years with the help of blockchain. Not that it would do this on its own, but incorporated as a part of a larger system. I'll talk about the myths and realities as I see them. You feel free to disagree. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just a generalist. And I'm going to be taking notes after the session of the other speakers because I always feel like there's more to learn. I'll talk about blockchain validation because even though the system itself, the little mechanism that's called blockchain, validates transactions, there's the environment that it fits into. How do you commercialize blockchain? You've got to fit it into a system. So we have a validation service I'll talk to show you what kinds of issues come up with clients who are trying to implement blockchains commercially. And then I'll talk a bit about ICOs. I hope to get to use cases. I'm going to start my timer here so I'll make sure I don't go over time. I've got 50 slides in this deck. I'm not going to talk to all 50 slides. My apologies for not getting into those details. You'll have the deck available, I'm sure. And I'd welcome any questions or comments. So let's go to the blue sky vision as I see it. I don't know if you know Phil Windley, but he's one of the founders of the Internet Identity Workshop. And he's established a blockchain-based identity network called Sovereign with the help of others. And the Sovereign network is what they call self-sovereign identity. And it enables people to have more control of their personal identifiers, those correlatable pieces of information that often are the targets of theft. So anyway, Phil is a really wonderful writer, and I would recommend his blog highly. Basically, he talks about these value propositions and these principles that blockchain networks really espouse. And anti-centralization is one of those. And it's not like we're going to an entirely decentralized environment to begin with, but that's the journey we're embarking on with blockchain. We're talking about going beyond the enterprise to inter-enterprise connections and trying to harness the collaborative effects at a larger scale between enterprises. He talks about heterarchy instead of hierarchy, horizontal rather than vertical, not ranking people by the role they play, but more of a horizontal collaboration. He talks about the tribes that have to exist to innovate. And on the consensus front, there's this network-based consensus model that blockchain establishes or points to. And that consensus can harness the power of algorithms and machines to help us eliminate some of the middlemen that are bottlenecks to transactions. So if you want to scale up your environment, you have to scale up the transactional flow. You've got to be able to use machines in a bigger way to validate transactions. But Phil also talks about how to build trust into a network and how many standards have to be in place for this to happen, what incentives have to be there for these networks to be adopted. And those are the really iffy things about blockchain is, why should we do this? Why should we care? How many people in this audience have read the Nakamoto paper? A good number. a good number. Did you get much out of it?
Not really.
I'm gonna run a quick video just to give people a grounding on the basics. And we can talk about the basics. I'm sorry you're not able to hear this better.